everybody, Pejman Gadimi back with another exotic car hacks video, and today we are going to actually do a full review of the EVO rear-wheel drive. Now, you saw me pick it up a week or so ago, and you saw me talk a little bit about some of the features and of course some of the design of my particular spec. Today, however, we are going to be looking at the actual car. Is it worth buying? Is it worth $250,000? And more importantly, how good does it do compared to other Lamborghinis in the lineup? So let's go and take a look at my EVO rear-wheel drive and actually do a review of if it's worth owning one or not. And I will start by saying it's got about 250 miles on the clock now. And as of today, it has a check engine light. So fuck my life. So, you know, about 4 years ago, you watched me do one of the most horrendous videos on the regular Huracan. Now, you may have noticed that I called the original Huracan one of the worst things to come out of Lamborghini in a long time. Now, one of the very contrast reviews I've done is the Performante, where I called that the single best Lamborghini ever made. And so someone could actually start saying, well, this is very inconsistent. Is the Huracan the best or the worst? And at the end of the day, I think what I say about all exotic cars is it really comes down to the details. And I think that's what makes the Performante such an incredible car and the regular Huracan such a horrible one. So where does the new EVO stand, and is it worth buying? So today we're going to take a look at some of the key features that make the EVO significantly different from the regular Huracan and perhaps not as special as a Performante. So on the surface, you'll notice right away that the car has a very Performante-ish look with a new front bumper. And of course, while it doesn't have a wing, it has a very similar exhaust setup to the actual Performante right out of the center. And so at this point, you got to start asking yourself, well, is it a Performante or is it a Huracan? Well, it's really neither. And it does a couple of things really well and a couple of things not so well. On the surface, I'll tell you this, the design of the car has really, really grown on me over time. These Performante mesh wheels were basically spec'd with the car and are a spectacular, spectacular look. You lose the carbon ceramics, which is really, really sad. And I will say that I wish they made the EVO rear-wheel drive with the ceramics for one simple fucking reason. There's brake dust all over the fucking car with less than like 20, 30 miles on it. Meaning if you drive 20 miles down the street, everything gets completely fucked up. So, you know, you start wondering, like, why the fuck wouldn't you put ceramic brakes at 260K? But I get it, it's a track variance, it's not the regular EVO. Well, the issue is the regular EVO looks like shit. The EVO rear-wheel drive looks really good, but then it doesn't get these features, or you end up going way, way over to some insanely high sticker if you end up doing stuff like that. So on the surface, there are some of the better things that make the EVO rear-wheel drive, like I said, much better than the regular EVO. First off, I think this front bumper is actually one of the best looking front bumpers Lamborghini has ever put on the Huracan. I also want to mention that the majority of people tend to take this single piece right here and actually paint that the body color when they're doing their spec. This gives the car a very different feature because it takes away from this design of basically having two side vents and a giant front. Now, having this contrast really gives you the design detail that the rear-wheel drive was meant to have. And so I highly recommend, if you're going to spec one, to make sure that you do the middle piece in black while doing the rest you know, in the actual body color. Now, that's the first feature we'll look at, which is basically the design. And from a design standpoint, the things that really stand out are, first off, the front bumper, the wingless perf, and then, of course, the interior. Right away from inside here, you'll notice that the seats, you'll see these new sport level seats, which are not the old race seats that made your ass feel like it just took a pounding by like 20 black guys. Literally, why are you laughing again? Why are you laughing?
Impossible.
What?
That would be impossible.
What, to have a gangbang with 20 black guys?
Can you imagine 20 black dicks inside your ass?
Dude, you need to watch legalporno.com and see. Yeah, I'm just telling you, like, that's how you know. That's how you know that it's possible. But anyways, this isn't a porn commercial. What's wrong with you? Anyways, we're talking about these seats again. So these seats aren't the really hard race seats. And there is still an option for the really hard race seats if you want something to, well, if you like JT, you don't know things are possible, things can become possible. But with the sports seats, they're a little bit better, and I want to show you this because they're actually not only super comfortable, but they're actually super beautiful. And I think that's one of the key features of the Evo is that the refinement of the car has taken some of the features for the Performante that really worked really well and has brought this here into the base Huracan in a much better way. Like as an example, you get a lot more like the plastic feel, like covered in very light leather, feels better than the original plastic in the Huracan. In addition to that, the side skirts have been shortened in a way that don't look as dramatic, but look much cleaner, and the details much better. And then, like I said again, on the rear, you have the bottom color-matched diffuser, which again adds a layer of knowing a rear-wheel drive from a non-rear-wheel drive. So again, you have these little details in like the piping and the little stuff that really makes the car the better version of a Huracan, but just not as special as a Perf. But these seats, if you don't spend the 10 grand on the seats, you're going to miss out because the whole experience of the Evo rear-wheel drive comes down to these seats. So that's a really, really big feature from a design standpoint. Then we're going to go here and take a look at the back. There are some variances in the back that I think are important to point out. You know, we have the exhaust, the center-mounted exhaust, the color rear diffuser, as I mentioned, but we lose one key thing, which is the forged engine bay back for this plastic. Now, a big deal? Not really, but nonetheless, I think small little features like that, when you have such beautiful design, could really help when it comes to, again, providing an experience just like the Perf. So I guess, you know, in a way, you kind of understand where the car stands. It's not a Perf. It's better than a base Huracan. So is it really good? Well, the really good part comes from, you know, three key segments. The first one being design, the second one, of course, being performance, and the third one being what I call experience that a lot of people aren't talking about. And I think that's where this car differentiates itself from a lot of the other Huracans on the market and what makes it so special. So let me briefly take you through the history of the original Huracan. The original Huracan was a complete piece of shit because everything was plastic. The Performante was absolutely incredible because the quality went up. The overall feel, experience, sound, speed, everything matched one another and worked flawlessly together. And then came the Evo, which I wasn't a really big fan of because the price tag went way up on the all-wheel drive. I didn't think the front design of the bumper was any good. And I just said to myself, I was like, well, that's just a Perf without a wing and a really ugly front. It didn't really flow. There was something missing in it. Then came this car. I went to the grand opening reveal of this car and I saw it and I said, okay, at least they got the front bumper right. At least they got the whole idea of what it's supposed to look like right. And at least they fixed the seats. So now you can have sports seats that look like race seats but are really comfortable. So they kind of got it. But then came the other element, which was I hadn't had a chance to drive it. Then I bought one. I got to drive it for a little bit. And now I've had it for a little bit and I've gotten to experience it. And I can tell you a couple of things. First off, the rear end is loose, but it's not that loose. It seems looser in the videos when you watch it, you know, with a professional driver, etc. But at the end of the day, the rear wheel steering on this car is incredible and it kind of constantly corrects itself and it's really nice. In sport mode, it basically behaves like a Perf. In race mode, it becomes extremely loose and then it can get dangerous. And in Strada, it's like the old shitty Huracan. So it has a very diverse set of personalities, just like the Aventador S did compared to the Aventador. Now, I will say one other thing is that there is an infotainment system in this that is absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And so I'm going to show it to you in a second, but I just want you to understand that that is probably the worst part of this car is this fucking infotainment system. And I'm going to show you exactly why so that you can understand how the experience can change as a result of that. So let's go inside, let's turn it on, let's check it out. So as soon as you get in, everything seems to have been improved. You have a giant screen just like a Tesla. You have better, you know, stitching, better options, of course carbon fiber vents, things that you wouldn't see in the Huracan originally. But the issue is that while the screen is fantastic, it's beautiful looking, in order to change something, you have to do this, you see? Like let's say you wanted to do that, or you have to do this. But you can't just pull a knob. So when you go to Starbucks and you want to order a fucking latte, it takes you literally 10 minutes to go like, oh fuck, okay, I do this, then I do this to shut it up. It's just fucking annoying. Like it really is annoying. There are alternatives. They have an actual shortcut. If you press two buttons here, you can just go like this. Again, cool factor, very high. Usability factor, not so much. There are other flaws to this screen, and it is the basis that it's a lot of stuff, but it's nothing you really give a shit about. Even climbing in itself, comes down to buttons. In order to turn things off, you have to hold them. The Bluetooth is very slow compared to other comparable cars, so it's mediocre at best. So I've said that I think the screen, while beautiful, creates a significant distraction for a driver's car, especially one focused with a rear-wheel drive system. Now, on the mode setting, let's continue talking for a second before we get into the performance, because we're going to go for a drive. But the other issue with this whole setup here is that while we talked about the original Huracan being a fantastic car, but just lacking in quality, you can see here that the carbon vents, the look, the perforated stitching and everything really makes the car hotter. Except that, like I said, it didn't come from Lamborghini. I actually installed these myself after to make sure that it took away some of the plastic components of the car, because most of the car was basically like this. Again, cheap plastic. And so you get to a point where you just go, at what degree or where are we going to get a car that's $250,000 and starts to have some quality fitting buttons? Because this is high quality. This is a quality looking unit. But then you have these flimsy fucking plastic pieces that now I've had to turn to carbon that could have come from the factory this way. And so the argument is, why hasn't it? And that's something that's, something to kind of consider in the long term. But I think outside of that, the seats are comfortable. We have a cup holder. We have better fit and finish inside, even though we lack carbon. But again, a small fix for $800 that matches the carbon on the seats. So it kind of works. Now let's go to the 3 modes. No different than a regular Huracan Strada Sport. You hear the exhaust note change, and of course, then the race mode. And the only difference, though, in this car versus another is that you truly see a difference in dynamic of car reaction with each mode. Usually you get more power, more sound, a better experience with a Performante. But with this car, with the Corsa mode, you really get a racing experience where the rear end is really loose. Versus Sport, you get a very balanced performance like the Performante. So in a way, one of the things I've said, and I'll show you on the road, I really think this is an incredible car, not only because it's, first off, the most affordable Lamborghini Huracan, but the other part that's just extraordinary about it is that it basically acts like a perf in sport mode, acts like a track car in race mode, and acts like a shitty Huracan in Strada mode. So it really has a very good balance of driving dynamic, and it's a lot of fun to drive. And I think that's what makes the rear-wheel drive such a great Lamborghini, even though it won't give you the status, because obviously it's not an Aventador, an SVJ, or something where you can actually compare cock sizes with your friends. It's still, I think, a very fun car to have as part of a car collection. I think it's just a lot of fun. And I'm going to say this, I know it's going to be weird, I enjoy driving this more than I enjoy driving my $500,000 Pista. Now, let's not say this is a better car. That's very far from it. I said I enjoy this because I feel like it's just more fun and it's more exciting on the road. And I think that's what makes this just so good. Let's go for a drive.
Okay, wait.
No, I'm still jamming. What are you talking about talking? Oh yeah, this is a review, right? Yeah, I should say again. I want it, be my love. Yeah, go ahead, JT. You break it down. Come on. No, show people your face right now. They gotta know I'm not the only retard in the fucking car. Alright, so anyways, back to our regular programming now, where 2 gay guys don't fucking dance in a car to Spice Girl. We are here in the EVO rear-wheel drive, and we're going to leave and get a taste of the car in terms of driving. Now, we talked a little bit about this in the first time when I picked it up from the factory, and you can feel the rear just get so loose already. It was really brutally fast and fun. That part we know. It's kind of hard to do these reviews from inside the cars because, you know, I've watched other people do reviews where they're like, I pressed the mode and this shit happened and that happened, and I'm like, yeah, who gives a shit, right? Like, you're really, there's no way to describe a feeling, you know? But there are ways to make you understand that things are fast. You see it? And you feel it. Like, not only you feel it because the camera goes to the fucking seat, but you also feel it because the rear end just keeps shaking because it's not getting any traction. And I think that's the coolest fucking thing, is that you get no traction. And it's amazing because you still don't lose it in sport mode. But if we were in Corsa right there, we could have lost it, and I think that's what makes it amazing. Now listen to the noise though. You hear that? It's crazy. It's like fantastic. It's very fast, it's very fun, and it's very loud in a very good pitched tone, which just works. And it just works really well, just like the experience driving the Performante. It gives you a similar vibration, but it's just not a Performante. You don't feel as stable, you don't feel as safe, but it feels as exciting. And I think that is fantastic. It is fantastic because it's almost $100,000 less than the Performante, and it really does the same thing. It does miss one critical component that the Perf had, of course, which is the ALA system. And while it's hard to describe again in a review because you're not in the car with me and you're not driving this, the ALA system does make a significant difference driving cars. And I thought that was one of the most brilliant things I've ever experienced on a Lamborghini. But in this particular case, you're not getting it. You're obviously paying like 70, 80,000 less. But you're also getting the same of the best of that, and a refined version of what didn't work in the Huracan. And you're getting it in a really good package. And I think that's what, if I looked at a base car back in 16 or in 15 or whatever the fuck the first Huracan came out, and I looked at what a Huracan should have been like, I would have said it probably should have been something very much like this. Because this, while it's not perfect, is very much a Lamborghini product. And while this is fucking made to look like a vacuum cleaning Tesla, it still doesn't fucking work. So maybe that's one of the things I've always said 100 times before, which is that maybe manufacturers shouldn't attempt to be something they're not. Instead, they should focus on what they do best. And what they do best sometimes is stick to what has worked for them and just make that better. And I think that that's kind of the problem with a lot of these manufacturers today, is that they deal with so many variations of customer like characteristics that basically go, well, I could have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or this, versus 10 years ago you really didn't have 20 choices, you had one choice. It was like, do you want a Lamborghini for this amount or do you want a Ferrari for that amount? And now you have so many variations, so many cars, so many alternatives to having fun with $250,000 that manufacturers have to work harder and pay attention to what will ensure they don't lose a customer. And I think that's one of the key things here that doesn't work, is that you don't need a Tesla screen. And if you have a screen, maybe you need to really look at what on this screen will be more relevant to your actual customer than just putting a ton of shit on a screen that no one gives a shit about. And I think, again, that's kind of the way I look at this, as where you kind of can see the failure, but then at the same time, you also realize that the product has improved, so you tend to forgive it. And for that reason, I think the Huracan EVO rear-wheel drive is actually a brilliant car, significantly more brilliant and significantly better than the EVO all-wheel drive. And while from a price point it even stands out even more, from a status point it does not, because obviously it is the cheapest Lamborghini, but it is still a Lamborghini. And so if you have the benefit in the world of having worked hard, not jacking off on YouTube every day, you know who you are, sitting there criticizing other people who's done what you cannot do, then you actually work and are in a place where you can buy one of these. It's really a great product. I mean, minus the fact that we have a fucking check engine light after like 200 miles. You can see there's a check engine light for no reason at 200 miles. For no reason. There's no reason for that check engine light to be there. Other than the fact that I'm Persian and probably wants to extort me out of money because I didn't put a rug in this car. And Whenever I don't put a rug in a car, it gets annoyed.
You know, I just thought about something really cool.
What?
What if we made custom like Persian rugs?
They
for
make those.
inserts of
They make
cars
those.
like this?
Dude, they make those. What are you
Really?
talking? Yeah, you don't even need to make that shit custom.
Fuck.
There's one Habibi out there, motherfucker, that's sitting like in his fucking
his
basement.
Rolls Royce is like-
Yeah, being like, I'm going to put some fucking Persian rugs in that motherfucker. Yeah, that's how that works. No, but overall, I'm telling you, this car is really good. It really is good. I mean, give and take, you know, a couple of the twerks there and there like every other exotic has, but it's really good. And I think if you have a chance to, you should absolutely experience it, because I think it's not only a great car, it's fast, it's fun, and more importantly, it creates an incredible experience, which gives you the ability to truly just get a feel for what Lamborghini's about in a package that's really not that expensive for a Lamborghini. And there are small things you can do, like upgrade the vents for $800 on your own afterwards. And of course, this car has been lowered and has had no VTEC suspension installed, which is, once again, fantastic, you know? So all of that, you know, gets you to a place where you can basically start understanding very clearly that with a few tweaks, any exotic can be fantastic, but this one just doesn't need that many. And so that's our review. Let me know your thoughts on the EVO rear-wheel drive. Should I keep this in my collection? I spec'd it 10 months ago, as I had said. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it came in late. Should I keep it? Should I get rid of it when I get my STO? This is my favorite color of all time, so not sure in terms of, I haven't really decided yet. And there's one of our members they're driving with his R8. But anyways, so I haven't really decided if I'm going to keep it or not. But I will recommend that for anyone doing this, make sure you get a great color, because resale values should stay strong for a little bit. And the only way we know this is because the regular Huracan market has risen to the 200K range for a 15. So it's not that far off to pay 230 to 240 for a 2021. And most EVO rear-wheel drives can be spec'd around the 240 range. This one was a 265-ish sticker, which was on the high side. But again, I spec things certain ways because of my personal choice of doing cars that are unique and exciting. But you don't have to. You can still get a great spec car without $15,000 paint option and still be right there in the 240 range for a well-loaded car. So that's our review, guys. Again, let me know if I should keep it or let it go. We have a lot of cool cars coming, not only this month, but a lot of cool cars coming next year. So you're going to see a lot more reviews from the perspective of an owner again, never a renter, a user, or a borrower, but rather someone who owns the cars, buys them, experiences them, and of course, more important than anything else, hack them. So before the new year, do yourself a favor, learn exactly how to hack a car. Click the link below, like the video, and I'll see you soon.